sure.
All right, let's get rolling. We have a midweek pod of 2 homers and a realist. We are 3 days away from the OU Kansas game, the OU Kansas bye week for OU. Hopefully it's a bye week.
Oh, it is 3 days away.
It actually is, yeah. I'm Steve.
I'm Connor.
Lucas.
Jay.
All right. So we are 2 homers and a realist. We're pretty excited. I think we're all going to the game.
We are.
We're all going to the game. We're all going to be at the game.
We don't miss games.
We don't miss games.
And Jay will be there.
I'll be there.
Jay's not going to miss a game.
We're going to be there.
From here on out, he's not going to miss a game. I like it. I like the commitment.
I'm not excited about the drive to Lawrence. I'm really not.
The Flint Hills are beautiful. We're going to probably have overcast, so it's going to be shit.
Some nice windmills.
Yeah, there's going to be, there's some great truck travel stops halfway
nice,
through.
Toll booths.
Tolls all the way. So
Somebody doesn't have a
They'll
bike
have
pass.
to stop accident on
You
the
don't
bike
have.
pass.
Oh, I think they do
And it
license
costs-
plate now, don't they?
Yeah, it's a flash pass.
It costs us 25 seconds twice on our trip
Yeah, you don't have to do that.
Kansas State.
No, you can flash
Drive
pass.
straight-
He was
drive
beside
straight through.
himself.
No, drive straight through. What? What's your problem? All
What do you
right.
mean drive straight through? Why would they have a thing that you can pull off and pay if you could just drive straight through now?
They've
might be-
changed it.
Yeah, they've changed
In the
it.
past 2 months, it's gone.
You can just drive right through.
They take a picture of your license plate, they mail you a bill.
It's how Texas was for years.
Oh, I knew Texas was like that because they had an agreement with the state of
They're
Oklahoma.
ahead of their
So he was
times.
losing his shit about this thing?
I mean, kind
It
of.
was
Kansas-
more
is
of a
Kansas caught
how
up?
in this day and age do you not
yeah,
have
they're-
a pike pass?
Because I know Oklahoma.
I agree.
It was a simple explanation.
What is
I
the
don't go
explanation?
anywhere.
No. You must
I
not
don't
go
go
anywhere.
I
That's
don't
what I
go
said.
anywhere.
Like, what if occasionally
Except
you
he
went
goes
somewhere?
to Tyler, Texas, and has to pay a toll booth there. Well, that one you drive through because they
Wow.
don't have pay. But
I mean,
I also told him it saves
Do you
you
make
money.
bad decisions all the time,
Yeah,
or just
I
in this
do.
one realm?
It saves you money too if you have the pike pass
Yeah.
because they discount it.
my whole
Actually,
life's
they had to stop
been nothing
doing
but
that.
bad
They got
decisions.
sued for that because it was against the law. I don't know if they can still do it. I guess they went back to doing that. They had to change the law. There was a big lawsuit about that when they first came out with Pike Pass because they swore that it wasn't going to be cheaper to have the Pike Pass because some idiots decided that was bad. And so then they actually made it cheaper without being legal. Had a huge lawsuit, had to go and change it. That's about 20, 30 years ago. That was back when you were making bad decisions as a young child. So tonight, we're going to be talking about running backs at OU. We're going to handle a discussion that we started on the last pod, and it's now spawned its own midweek pod. I'd like to start first, though, with a listener request. That this is a shout out to Joff, who asked that we let it be known what we're drinking. So he'd like to know what we're drinking. So Connor and I are drinking Weller
Special Reserve.
Special Reserve.
Green label.
Green label.
It's getting allocated in Oklahoma, so if you see a bottle, grab a bottle.
All right.
It's worth
Get
something.
some. It's good.
Connor
We
will
got
buy
it
it
on
from
a
you.
single large ice cube, the way it should be done. Jay, what are you drinking?
I have a Corona.
Corona. Is that a Premier?
It is a Premier.
It is a Premier. What do you got
So
there?
that means it's water practically.
So what do you got there?
I have a
Lucas?
Yangling.
Yeah, that's a new beer, right?
Nope, it's the
not?
oldest brewery in America.
In America.
In America.
Who owns them?
They're family owned.
I don't think they are anymore.
Family,
They are.
family
It's
owned.
a group of sisters
The
that
Yuengling
own
family.
Yangling.
I
It is.
thought that Anheuser-Busch just bought them.
I
Nope.
thought they bought them too, and I looked it up and
That's
they didn't.
false.
It
The
is-
Yangling
yeah.
sisters still own it. They came to a distributorship agreement with
Okay.
Miller Coors.
Stiff arm them.
How about that? How
Yep.
about that?
They
Well, hey,
Heisman
cheers to our second midweek
Cheers.
pod.
It's not
Weeks.
1664, but it'll do.
There we go. So, Joff, thank you for the listener request.
Good request.
Long-time listener, first-time requester. All right, so what we're going to handle tonight is me telling you the answers and then you guys debating them. Now, everybody's got their own choices on this, their own opinions. We want to examine specifically who are the top 5 running backs in our opinion, both since 2000 and of all time. And I ask that everyone at least have their criteria. So you can have your own opinion about this. Just give me your criteria so I can pick it apart. Or so I can say, by your own criteria, you're wrong. Because that's what I love to do to people.
Sounds good.
So who wants to go first? Who wants to lead it off? Jay, maybe you should, since you sort of inspired this
Yeah, sounds
with your
good to me.
controversial take.
My criteria is going to be who I would want on the team now.
Okay. This team or
This
any...
team.
Oh, this team.
This team.
seems like a weak criteria. Like it's a little fluid, right? Like next year would be a totally different answer.
Okay, well, current last couple of years, or maybe just Lincoln Riley.
Who would fit well into a
Yes.
Lincoln Riley offense?
Yes.
Okay.
We said this is between 2000 and now, right?
Yeah.
There's two. There's two. If you were to listen, like earlier,
Sorry.
or when I
I'm
texted this,
I'm diving in.
or any of the other times I've talked about it, since 2000 and all time.
Okay.
Which can be the same answer. They don't have to be different answers. Jay, what
I
you
will
got?
preface this with, I think Adrian Peterson is a fairly obvious answer for the best running back the last 20 years,
So
hands down.
is that
but that's
is
not
that
part of my
a slight
criteria.
on both Adrian and people who will answer Adrian? That's interesting.
Sort of.
You're kind of a
So-
jerk already.
I'm going to go with number one. I would want Joe Mixon in my offense right now.
Wow. Number one pick is
Number
Joe
one
Mixon.
pick is Joe Mixon.
Fantasy team, number one pick, Joe Mixon.
Number two, I would go Demarco Murray. Number three, I would go Rodney Anderson.
Wow. So a guy that was been in the Lincoln
Yes,
Riley
because
offense.
I've seen him in the offense.
Okay.
Exactly.
All right.
Same
all
with
right.
Mixon.
Okay. With injuries?
These are all healthy, 100%
Okay.
ready to go athletes.
So not Rodney Anderson.
Number four, I'd actually probably go Quentin Griffin,
Really?
because I think he could be pretty deadly
Okay.
with Lincoln.
All right.
And number five, I mean, I'll just throw 80 in there just because.
Wow.
I don't
Just
think
a
he would
charity,
do that well.
Yeah,
a
just
charity
'cause.
pick
Just 'cause.
of Adrian Peterson.
I don't think he
A
would do
charity
that well
pick.
in this system.
Because of his ability to run really fast or
Nope.
break tackles? Or
Nope.
which thing
His
would
running-
be only
his
so-so?
running
Or
style.
catch the ball out of the backfield.
His running style. He liked to be like 8 yards deep. He needed
Okay.
time to read
Okay.
the line and make
True
decide
I-back
on his
style.
cuts.
He didn't read the line. He hit the holes without looking. What are you talking about?
No, he didn't. He was even
He was not
2
patient.
yards
He
deeper.
blew shit up.
But he was even 2 yards deeper than a normal running back set for that reason. He needed time to see where he wanted to go.
That wasn't why he was back. It was because it took him a little bit longer to get going because he didn't have
He
the
didn't have the super
burst.
quick feet.
So he'd be terrible in the zone read.
I don't know.
Well,
You got to
we
commit
run-
to the
points on
zone
my
read.
team.
Do we run zone read all the time?
Well, I am in my scenario.
In your scenario,
We run zone read 95% of the time on running plays.
no.
Yeah, we do.
Well, look
No
at it
chance.
this way.
Yes, we do.
90% of the time, that's
95?
already decided
No,
that he's
yeah,
handing the
yeah,
ball off.
not 90,
It looks like a
that's-
zone read maybe to the uninformed.
Are you
but
talking about an RPO?
Those aren't
Okay,
zone
it
reads.
doesn't matter because it is still a running back to the side with a handoff, fake handoff from the
But
quarterback.
that's not a zone read.
What do
The
you call
zone
it?
read is literally the quarterback reading the defensive end if he's going to bite on the handoff or not.
Well,
and
sometimes they don't
keeping
have
it or
they
handing
don't
it
have
off.
someone like Rattler
Those plays
read
are
it. I bet-
determined by
I bet
Lincoln Riley
there are-
probably 90% of the time.
No way. No way.
Definitely.
That's what the quarterback has to read.
No.
If the defensive end is crashing down,
I know
Then
what a
you
zone
keep
read
the
is,
ball.
but I'm telling you, Lincoln Riley's not letting them zone read.
yes, I bet he lets Caleb Williams zone read.
Or
I
Kyler
bet he let
Murray.
Kyler Murray zone
I
read.
bet there's 5 plays a game that are zone read.
no way.
No, I
no
bet it's
way.
more
Yes,
than that.
5.
I think you're both
The rest
wrong.
are either handoffs
I think it's not
or-
as much as you
or
think,
called
Lucas.
play
I think it's
actions.
more than you think, Jay,
Well, that's fair.
that Lincoln is making the decision for him. And I think early in the season, even in Kyler Murray's case, he's making the decision for him more and more. It's only by the end of the year
I
that
think
he
for
builds enough
Rattler,
trust.
the majority of the time, he
yeah.
definitely called it. This is a handoff.
All right, so
'Cause he
ask-
wasn't good
answer
at
me
reading
this. We're getting really off on this tangent, but it's interesting. How many times did he call a handoff for Jalen Hurts and he actually kept the ball? Or do you think he kept
Probably
called
several
that many
because
keeps?
that's why we don't have Trey Sermon on the team.
I would say, I bet he actually gave Jalen the option more than any other quarterback.
I agree.
And Jalen took it too many times.
Probably
Yeah.
so, yeah.
Yeah.
But did he
So-
take it too many times?
Yeah.
Yes.
With Kennedy Brooks
Absolutely.
and the options that he had and Trey Sermon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
There's so many occasions where I said, why is Jalen keeping the ball here?
I think so. So don't you think, though, that Lincoln Riley would adapt if he had Adrian Peterson in his backfield? He'd say, I wonder, even if, assuming that you're right, that there's certain plays that we run today that don't work, that he might say, I wonder if we should do things slightly different to utilize this generation.
You almost
talent.
open the playbook up
but
even
I'm not,
more.
Yeah.
Okay,
Honestly.
I wasn't taking it that far.
Not that literal.
I was
not
just
that,
plug and play somebody
Okay.
to get on the field. yes, I do think he would adjust his offense completely if he had an
Anyone
Adrian
would.
Peterson in the back.
Anyone would.
So Adrian Peterson's your 5th pick. Is it a close fifth?
Okay, I know that sounds stupid.
100%
Go ahead,
sounds
go
stupid.
for it.
It
I
doesn't.
don't
No, it doesn't just sound
It
stupid.
is
All right.
stupid.
Okay,
I
well, how
like
about
it, but
this?
no, it does. Within his criteria.
Yeah.
Within my
Within your
criteria.
Within your
Okay.
criteria, it
Here
fits
you go.
well.
Here's
Still
some,
bad.
I'm going to surprise the hell out of you in a minute.
here's some interesting stats maybe for you. Okay, yards per carry.
Adrian Peterson's number 1, right?
Joe Mixon is 5th all time at
I'm
6.76
gonna fact
yards
check you
per
on that.
carry. AD is 17th, and Demarco is 27th.
That checks out.
And at yards per touch, when you consider receiving, kick return, punt return, etc.,
punt return.
Murray
Well,
is 17th,
yeah, that's kind of an interesting stat, though.
and AD is 29th.
Like
He,
kick
on
return, you
kick
get
returns?
like 20 yards, kind of as a given, to get just to even, right? So that's a pretty
I
big.
mean, I bet we
return.
can count on 2 hands how many
So-
times Peterson kick returns.
So per touch,
Oh, I bet it's not even that many.
per
actually,
touch,
right?
Mixon had 8.80 yards per touch, which is almost, it's 2.14 yards per touch more than Adrian Peterson. 2 more yards, he touched
Yeah,
the ball.
but he got the ball thrown to him in space way more than they ever did with Peterson.
Okay, what about the yards per
But
carry?
I think that's
So-
offensive coordinator issue.
That's
he
definitely
still
part
has
of
him
it.
in more yards per carry.
Yeah, but he also had 2 back sets a lot of times.
So Joe
They,
Mixon.
they never put Adrian Peterson and Demarco Murray in the backfield together, where the defense had to say, one of these 2 dudes get the ball, we have to plan for it. When
That's not my
Pirine and
fault.
Mixon were both in the backfield together, and you never knew who was going to get the ball in that deal. So that accounts for yards per carry right there.
All right, let's move to the next.
Yeah,
Adrian Peterson had 24 receptions,
How crazy is that?
and
That's so crazy.
I agree. And Joe Mixon had 65.
Joe Mixon
So
was
a
amazing
lot of that is offense,
receiving the ball.
an offensive coordinator, etc. So
How
those
many kick returns did AD have?
I don't have that. I didn't pull that stat. You can look that up. I don't think AD had very many at all.
I mean, I can't think of more than 4 or 5, maybe.
I don't think either him or Joe were back there very much.
I think he returned quite a bit of kicks.
No.
AD.
I don't think so. Maybe you're right. I don't. Like in his first year,
DeMarco did.
Demarco was huge in kick
Adrian
return,
Peterson, no.
as we know, and that will come
Yeah.
up later.
There
and
was
we'll
a
talk
specific
about
game that we were losing in, and I remember them purposely putting AD in there at kick returns.
and it was a
Texas
big
Tech.
surprise.
To try to do
yeah,
something
to try and make
big,
something
and
happen.
I
I think it
think
was
he did.
Texas Tech. Yeah,
Yeah, I think
Okay.
it was Texas Tech.
think
yeah, and he
got
actually
like
did
out 50 or
boom
something like
something
that.
up.
Okay,
Yeah.
who do you think would have had better statistics between Mixon and Murray? Because Murray was also an elite offensive line.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Heisman-winning quarterback.
Yeah, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let's get everyone
the rest,
else's
and then we
picks.
Okay.
Lucas, are you ready
Nope.
to talk about yours?
I'm ready.
Connor, go.
I like Jay's criteria, but I also like Lucas's overall criteria. Of who I like.
Wait, what was his criteria?
Who
My
you enjoyed
criteria is going to
watching
be
the most?
who the best to watch
Because
is.
you didn't share that yet on. that
So
was
top
pre-pod.
5, just I'll rattle them off. Number 1, Demarco Murray. Number 2, Adrian Peterson. Number 3, Ramondre Stevenson. Number 4, Joe Mixon. Number 5, Trey Sermon.
Okay. That's
Those-
all since 2000.
Trey
Yep.
Sermon.
So
Anything different all time?
all time? I have a small sample size considering I didn't. Get
That's
to
your
wa-
all-time?
Yeah, I didn't get to watch a lot of those guys.
You
on
were
the
6
field.
years old
I've
when
seen,
this thing started.
I've seen some Billy Sims stuff. I've seen Quentin Griffin stuff. I've seen the Marcus Dupree, 30 for 30. That guy was a freak. I don't know what he could have been. I mean, he looks like he could have been something that was
He was something.
beyond what anybody else could have been.
Yeah.
But just from an overall, I like the idea of all around backs. Demarco, you could just watching Demarco run the ball was like watching a symphony on the football field. Like so smooth,
Yeah.
just kind of did his own thing, and it was beautiful. Adrian Peterson, kind of the wrecking guy. Loved watching him. I mean, I think like we just said, you put him in any offense, you're going to find something for him. And you might even, If you plug and play him in a Lincoln Riley offense, Lincoln builds around the QB right now. You may have an opportunity to build around two different players.
That's a good point.
Ramondre, extremely effective. I look at him both from like a yards after contact plus like an amazing. I think it's been obvious this year. We miss running backs who can block. Like I miss a running back who can block a defensive end or someone coming off the edge. Ramondre Stevenson was amazing at that. Joe Mixon, probably one of the best dual threat running backs out there. Ran the ball extremely well, kind of had that smooth aspect to him as well, but you could put him out in the slot. I mean, I'll never forget that Texas Tech catch running down the sideline and choosing to go up with one hand when he could have went up with two easily and acting like it was something.
Was it
he
a
did
one-hand
every day.
catch against Houston too? In a losing effort down
over the middle?
Over the shoulder.
Yeah, over the middle.
That
that
was an
first
over the shoulder
Like the
two-handed.
he
first
kinda
touchdown.
bobbled it,
That was
yeah.
amazing. Yeah.
That was, yeah. And I mean, that's like, oh man, that's Joe Mixon.
Jay was
Yeah.
there.
You were at that game?
The Houston game.
You didn't miss that
I
game?
did go to the
You go to
Houston
some of
game.
those games?
Good for
Lucas,
you.
you
It was
didn't go,
terrible.
I did not go to that game.
I didn't
I actually had a
either.
good story of Houston. Outside of the stadium, they had
Memory of that game.
a 40-yard dash set up for us old guys to think we can still run.
Did you finish it?
I did finish it at about the 35-yard
It was
mark.
it was the 40-yard crash for Jay.
No, at about the 35-yard mark, it said it was like 3.8, 3.9. I'm like, man, I'm gonna crack the high fours here. And then I pulled a hammy, and
Okay.
I had to have my leg up in the stadium the rest of the game because my thigh was stiffening up. It was all bruised in the back of my leg.
But you were pulling a
And then it was purple.
4.640.
I
I
would
could
have
run a 4.240
I
right
would've.
now with the booze.
Hey, I ended up with a
do
five.
it.
I had a 5.3 with a pulled hammy.
I'm crazy fast. It'd surprise you how fast I am.
I was like 37 years old, like 225 pounds.
22 years
running like
ago.
a 5.3. I mean,
Wow.
it's blazing.
So this is all about you.
And then lastly, Trey Sermon. I think he. I mean,
How about that? And a guy that finished his career somewhere else.
yeah.
But he was very good. Damian Williams has great OU stats,
Yeah.
and he finished
So
somewhere
Trey
else,
Sermon's
too.
averaging 6.1 yards a carry. Didn't have a lot of receptions, but playing that closer role, like he
Right.
was a very.
Oh, he
big
was a
force.
great closer. He
was
was
crazy.
really, really
He's
a
almost
closer.
too good at it.
If
Like,
he
it
would
was
have been
crazy.
content with doing that, and I think that's why he didn't stick around. He wanted to be running back number
Yeah.
one.
No,
But
that's
that
Jay-
was his role.
Jay-
I mean,
Jay
he could have
Bowl
just.
wears
He would have been
Right.
running back
Right.
number one after.
He would have, exactly. In 2020, he
after-
would have been
yeah,
running back
after
number
that,
one.
after-
Undoubtedly so.
And who knows
Brooks opted
how
out.
different the
yeah,
world would be.
Who knows what we're looking at right now?
Right, exactly.
Yep.
Lucas, what do you got? Who do you like to watch?
I love to watch Adrian Peterson run because he's the best to ever do it in
He's
Oklahoma.
Power and speed and smoothness all in
Yes.
one.
He could bust off a spin move like against Oklahoma State and take it 80
Twice.
without even blinking.
Twice he did
He
that.
could be in the middle of a pile and come out on the other side like he didn't even get touched.
Yeah.
Yep. Or he could just follow the blocks and hit the hole and
Yeah.
burst up the gut.
And he
And he could
do
drag
it
guys
all day.
He could drag guys with him.
Yeah.
There's video
power
of him
was
and just
incredible.
pulling three guys
Yeah.
and getting an extra 7 or 8 yards. And then number 2, I go Mixon for the versatility.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it probably has to do with his offense, offensive coordinator, Lincoln Riley, of course. I think Adrian Peterson could have benefited from more catches
Yeah.
because he had decent hands. I
He had
just
real good
think they
hands.
didn't throw him
Yeah.
the ball.
No, the offense wasn't good.
The thing with AD though was a lot of time he didn't know what the assignment was, right? Like a lot of time he didn't know the play that was being ran.
Well, I mean, his freshman year, he
Well,
was
that's
the
who you want on your team.
see
he was the
ball,
backup.
run ball, score ball.
he was the backup his freshman year. I mean, Keywan
Right.
Jones started the
Keywan.
first 9 games or
Who
something.
has impressive stats.
Super impressive.
Yeah.
stats.
Yeah.
And then let's
Very
see,
impressive
third,
level of stats, actually.
I'm going to go Demarco.
Okay.
He was much better before his injury
Yeah.
at Texas Tech. As a freshman, I thought he was the next Reggie Bush because he had
Yeah.
Hurdle
this-
over the Texas guys.
he had the
right?
smooth running capability, and he could
But he had more power than Reggie.
turn.
Broad.
Yeah.
He could cut on his inside leg instead of his outside leg, which
Right.
is what
Well, and
is
his
really
cuts were
rare.
so
Yeah, it's true.
effortless too.
But
God,
post
they were so
Texas
effortless.
Tech kneecap injury,
Uh-huh.
he was never the same, and
Yeah.
he was a little bit slower.
Which
I was
is-
surprised.
But you say that, and he still went
was-
on to a
right.
great career,
I was shocked in the
including
NFL.
in the NFL. He
I was
did
shocked in the NFL that
wonderful
he
work.
could pull away from guys because he just doesn't look fast.
No.
And especially in the
Very
NFL, he
deceptive.
looked slower,
But
but
he
could
was
still run away
fast.
from guys.
that year he had
And he won the
Dallas
rushing
was
title.
Unreal.
Yeah.
That Dallas season was
He looks
crazy.
like he could still play too.
Oh, yeah, he
does.
for sure
I'm
still
putting up
does. Yeah.
Yeah.
No doubt.
4, Quentin Griffin. Also very versatile, extremely fun to watch. I mean, watching him put his hand on the ground instead of
The tripod.
Oh,
He'd always go to the tripod.
always.
He
would
never
get-
was down.
He'd
Tripod.
be like a little
Here we
bowling
go.
ball getting bumped around or pinball.
Like, nope. Here
and
we
he'd
go.
just
Nope.
put his hand on the ground and keep going. And
Yeah.
thankfully, refs didn't call him down just because.
Well, he wasn't down.
He wasn't down.
Yeah.
He would just pop
Yeah,
out
you're
of
right.
pop out of
Thankfully,
piles
think
because
how many bad calls there could have been, especially when did instant replay?
no, that was definitely
06
pre-instant
or
replay.
something like that.
Yeah, 5, 6, and
Yeah.
they were reforming it all along. So yeah, he could have been called down so many times.
And then 5, I'm going to go OU all-time rushing leader, Samaje Perine, because he got it done,
He did.
and he
He would
was
get it done.
extremely fun to watch.
Very
Holds
fun.
He
to
would
watch.
just
record
run
for,
people
most
over.
yards in the game.
Yeah.
Were you at that game, Steve?
Oh yeah, I was at
Steve,
that
were you
game.
at that
I was
game,
there.
Lucas?
I was at that game.
Kansas.
Wow, I was the only one out of the game.
Wow.
Rainstorm.
The whole
Yep.
time.
Yep.
You know what?
What was that,
And I
427?
said it at
Is
the
that right?
time. I said, you look. I told my dad, I said, you look at these stands. There are maybe 25,000 people here.
But
If you
100,000
poll, there'll be
people
100,000 people who said they were at that game, and that's bullshit. There weren't even 65,000 to start that game,
Right.
much less did they
the end of
end
the
it
game.
with that many when he broke the record. In the third, at the start of the fourth quarter, was it? Still had like 12 minutes to go. He could have just
Yeah.
done so much more.
Yep.
So did Coastal
And
Carolina
that was the
lose?
week after Melvin
lost.
Gordon had broken the record for Wisconsin.
Yeah,
literally lasted
that's
the
what's incredible.
The next week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A record that had stood for like what
30 years or something, yeah.
Yeah.
80s, yeah.
And then
Incredible.
6-7 days later, it was broken.
Give anybody on the all-time
Against
list
Kansas.
Kansas again, exactly. That's amazing.
Maybe Kennedy Brooks.
Who?
Can get
Oh,
it
there you
done.
go. Well, no, it's Kansas. It's Gail Sayers who held the
Because
record.
we didn't
forever.
have a passing quarterback who could throw the ball in that Kansas game.
I don't know.
Cody Thomas was the quarterback, right? Yes,
Was it? Yeah.
It was Cody Thomas. And they said, we know who's getting the ball. Take it and run.
And it doesn't matter.
Oh, man.
That would be pretty special. So, anybody on the all-time list that would displace some of those since 2000 guys?
Adrian Peters is still number 1 for all time for me. Dupree probably gets in the top. I mean, he's probably 4, I would
Okay.
say. 3 or 4, somewhere in that range.
Okay. Yeah. Anybody else to mention before I tell you the answers?
Well, I mean, everybody knows Steve Owens was great. Billy Vessels supposedly never saw him, obviously.
Billy Vessels
What's your criteria for
actually
all-time?
was a quarterback, I believe. Now, the position of quarterback was different back then,
Right.
but I am fairly certain he was actually a quarterback.
No, I'm pretty sure he was a running back.
I don't think so. So let me look and see if I can pull up Billy Vessel's stats here and tell you more about that.
I think it's hard to compare running backs from
Yeah,
an
it is.
option
Eras.
into a modern day style. of
Well,
running
there's
back.
no doubt about it that it's tough. So when you look at rushing, Billy Vessels doesn't even show up. I am pretty sure he was just a quarterback.
You also have to think statistically.
Look him up, though. I may be
Your
wrong.
odds of breaking a bigger run go up the more opportunities you get. So, someone like AD
Yes,
who got
that's
30
right. I
carries
always
a
maintain
game,
that.
Position running back.
I absolutely.
Heisman winner 1952. First round.
Oh, okay. Here's why.
Second overall 1953 draft
This-
by the Baltimore Colts.
My stat universe doesn't go back past 56.
Okay.
That's why. So
2,084 rushing yards in his career.
Yeah, I would say
which
that-
that's not.
I'm not even going to include
not a lot.
him in any way, but I have always maintained that. In fact, I could pull a spreadsheet up where I made that argument before, because it was back when it wasn't Barry Sanders, it was post that, it was in the 90s, and OSU had one of their perennial guys that got a zillion yards, and my position was when you give the guy the ball 40 to 50 times a game, his probability of breaking a 70-yard run go up, and that's going to completely distort the statistical framework there. It's going to just make his stats look tremendous when it really was just a fourth quarter run that meant nothing. So I totally agree with you on that.
I mean, he won the Heisman
Yes, he did.
with 1,072 yards,
The game was very different back then.
17
honestly.
touchdowns,
It was very different.
probably only 8 games a season. or
rushing, and
something.
one receiving touchdown.
Yeah, there's
That's
not,
wild.
Those were 10, 11 game seasons, but Every other year,
Yeah,
there was a
10-game
big
season.
what were we in the Missouri Valley? The
So he had
Big
100 yards a
Seven.
game.
Big Seven.
He had
Big
100 yards a
Seven, it
game
was
and
a-
won the Heisman.
Every other year, you could go to a bowl game.
6.4 yards a carry, 17 touchdowns.
It was a little biased back then. So here's my criteria. Before I give you my criteria, let me give you some interesting stats that kind of really surprised me. So if I were to say 3 different ways of looking at the statistical categories of rushing and receiving, I didn't include kick returns, but those are important. Those are really important. But if you look at rushing and receiving, and I just looked at all the running backs who have 1,000 yards or more in rushing and receiving. So and receiving. So the low man on this group is Brewster Hobby at 63rd. He has 803 yards rushing plus 259 receiving for 1,062. Now, interestingly, on this list, numbers 46 and 47, and I'm one of the few people that remember this, are 2 Rodney Andersons. One is Rodney Anderson, and one is Rodney Anderson. Both of them injury-prone players. Rodney Anderson broke his neck, I believe, in the 80s. He was a perennial talent who just consistently got injured, just like Rodney Anderson 20 years, 30 years later. So I looked at all the running backs, and there's 63 of them that have over 1,000 yards of basically yards from scrimmage. And one of the criteria I used was average yards per touch, so both receiving and rushing. And does anyone want to guess who the number 1 running back is in average yards per play from scrimmage? You won't know it unless I give you a clue. A rapper is named after him.
Busta Rhymes.
Buster Rhymes, who I think was drafted by the Chicago Bears, played 1980 and 1984, 10.9 yards from scrimmage.
That was not in the 2000 range, though.
No, I'm just giving you all time. I'm giving you all time. I'm giving you all time stats. If you want to go down the list in that average from scrimmage, next is Greg Pruitt, who holds, I believe, the NCAA record of rushing yards per carry still. Number 3, Joe Mixon at 8, basically tied with Greg Pruitt. Then Steve Sewell, then Ramondre Stevenson. So it shows you how these recent guys getting the ball a lot through receiving yards, which obviously are typically a few more yards than your average carry.
Ramondre, that's pretty interesting.
If Ramondre could have had a full season last year,
Oh, absolutely.
Been in the Heisman talks.
I mean,
it would have been Heisman talks.
absolutely. You're talking about a guy who played 1.5 years.
Yep.
And
it was
stats
amazing
are amazing.
how much better our offense was once
night
he
and
started
day.
playing.
Night and day. So, finishing out the top 10, Clendon Thomas, who played in the 50s, Kennedy Brooks, Marcus Dupree, Rodney Anderson, the one we know, and Billy Sims. Then I created my own sort of efficiency statistic and said touchdowns per play. So, knowing that touchdowns are pretty damn important in football, who has the most percentage or highest percentage of touchdowns per play, and that's Greg Pruitt. Number 1, 9.2%. 9.2% of the plays he has the ball, he scores a touchdown. Next is Billy Sims, then Anthony Stafford in the national championship year of 85 and then through 88, and Joe Mixon. Then Samadre Perine.
That's my boy.
Demarco Murray, Joe Wiley, Elvis Peacock, hell of a name, Chris Brown, and Trey Sermon.
Chris Brown.
How about that?
Chris Brown would have started at any other program in the
absolutely.
country.
It's a very
If it wasn't
big
for
surprise.
Chris Brown was a good
Underappreciated running back. And then the third one was just total yards, looking at just total yards, and this is going to really tie into my list a bit. So if you look at the top 10 in total yards from scrimmage, rushing and receiving, number 1, Demarco Murray. Number 2, Quentin Griffin. Samadre Perine. Joe Washington, who, interestingly, his stats don't include bowl games.
Oh, wow.
So that was before they included bowl games. I don't know what they would be with the bowl games, including the national championship in 75 against Michigan. Adrian Peterson, Steve Owens, Damon Parker, Billy Sims, Greg Pruitt, Chris Brown.
Doesn't that kind of reflect a longevity statistic, though?
Oh, absolutely. No doubt about it. Yeah. So Joe Mixon's not going to be high on this list just because he only had 2 years in play. No, for sure. So another way I looked at it was, all right, let's take all of these stats and just average where they rank. A lot of it's going to reflect longevity, and I probably should correct for that with the attempts and take it out. But if you look at where they rank in rushing attempts, yards, average, and touchdowns, receiving attempts or receptions, yards, average, and touchdowns, and then from scrimmage for those same things, including my efficiency stat of touchdowns per play, Greg Pruitt's number 1, Demarco Murray's number 2, P. Ryan, Quentin Griffin, Joe Mixon. Billy Sims, Joe Washington, Damon Parker, Trey Sermon, Adrian Peterson. So now, without further ado, here is my actual ranking, my criteria. So I said 3 things. You must be a player who could be a top player today. So that's me basically immediately calling out all the olds and saying, if you played in the 1950s and 60s, thank you very much for the foundation you laid. You very likely could not play today. You're just not going to be of the caliber. Number 2, must have meaningful stats in the top 10 over career. So I want guys who have had a meaningful career, not just a single great season, or maybe great 2 seasons, unless that 2 seasons was great enough to qualify as career-like stats. And the third criterion must have contributed meaningfully to great OU football. So highly subjective, but I need it to be great OU football. And this helped me separate people apart.
Yeah.
Good football team, meaningful football. So this really, among others, would take a guy like Damon Parker out of the running, because that was not great OU football. That was arguably some of the worst OU football, even though he was great at it and in that time frame did wonderful things. So since 2000, I'm going to go from 5 to 1.
Okay.
Since 2000, coming in at number 5, Samadre P. Ryan, who is sort of in my heart, one of the favorite guys, just because I thought he was just an awesome guy. Just
did his job.
Low-key did his job and just did it magnificently.
He did show OSU mercy with the knee, though.
He did. That's
Point
true.
deduction.
That's true. Point deduction.
It was a
on
smart
that.
play.
It was a smart play.
we run it up on them
I
bastards.
give him that for the smart play. But then number 4, Quentin Griffin. Number 3, Joe Mixon. Narrowly, number 2, Adrian Peterson. Number 1, Demarco Murray. Now, so then that's my top, since 2000, my top 5. Demarco Murray, the best back of the bunch, which surprised me. But as I looked at the stats and thought about that, you look at Demarco Murray, he's a knee injury away from playing in a national championship game.
And winning us a national
where we
championship.
probably win the national championship.
Exactly.
A fluke play on a kick return where I've always argued he shouldn't have been returning kicks. It was really an
onside kick recovery.
It was an onside kick
Yes,
against
it
Texas
was.
Tech.
Yes, it was an
Well,
onside kick.
but
it
it's
was in Lubbock, and it was an onside
No, it's
kick.
a react, but it's a
But
before the
re-aggravation
national- in the national championship,
in the Big
it's
12
Big 12
championship.
The first kickoff of the game in
Yeah.
the Big 12 championship against Missouri.
Against Missouri.
Kicks off. DeMarco gets hit low.
Yeah.
And comes
Yeah.
up lame.
I don't
Yeah.
remember
And
that.
is out
Yeah.
the entire game. Is out the national championship. Ball.
Yeah. And
Game, set, point.
we aren't in the long drought if it's only for that.
I
But who
rewatched
knows?
that game. That's the only reason I
God,
I rewatched that game.
It's painful.
Before
It's
the,
a great game.
It is.
But
a
it's so
great game,
painful
but
seeing
man,
that.
You know it.
I actually
Jeez.
watched Georgia highlights today for some
Don't
No,
talk about
God, you're a
that.
sick
Yeah,
person.
we don't talk about that on this pod.
Well, here's my all-time
Unspeakable
list.
words.
So all-time. So basically, I looked back and said, who could I insert and where would I insert them, and who would get displaced? So I'm going to start at the top. My number 1 all-time OU running back, and this surprises me, Demarco Murray. He stays number 1 all-time. When you look at what he did, what he's capable of, the career he put up, and the impact he had to great OU football, to me, he's number 1. Number 2, my favorite OU running back of all time, silver shoes, smoked through a keyhole, Joe Washington. Number 3, Adrian Peterson. Number 4, Greg Pruitt. You can't deny the statistics he put up. They were amazing. He was the one who laid the foundation that then Joe came and built a house on. And then number 5 is Billy Sims. You can't beat Boomer. Not just because of the nostalgia of that, but his impact in great OU football, what he did in his career, to me makes him a top 5 guy.
Should have been a 2-time Heisman winner.
Should have absolutely been a 2-time Heisman winner.
Should get
Joe
Billy on the
Washington
pod.
could have won at least one had we been on TV.
Billy would do the pod.
So Billy would do the pod. Billy would totally do the pod.
Billy would 100%
We
do
need
the
to
pod.
get Billy on the pod. and just let him go.
Exactly. Yeah.
I bet he'd
We
have
couldn't
a lot
even
of good
talk.
things to say.
Oh, absolutely.
I bet he'd have some awesome things to
He'd
say.
want to be higher on our list.
Yeah. Yeah.
Changed my mind, Billy.
Yeah, I changed my mind. That's a pretty good topic you got there. I like that. I like that a lot.
So, I had Mixon 1. You had him 2?
No, 4
No.
or 3 or 4.
I had
Get him 3,
You had him.
pull up.
Who'd you have?
I had him
I had
3.
Demarco as 1.
3 since 2000.
and I had him 2.
2.
And I had Mixon as...
You changed my mind on that. I'll be honest. I was
And Mixon at 4.
surprised.
4. Okay.
I was
And
very
we all
surprised.
had DeMarco in that 1, 2, 3 spot.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, both of those things
Mine too.
surprised me about where they ended up.
I'm
on the
so
list.
upset we didn't get to see some of these guys. Just like you said earlier, Damian Williams,
Yeah.
Ramondre last year, Rodney Anderson and
Yeah.
his plague of injuries. I mean, you have some guys scattered out there who
Adrian Peterson missed more than
Yeah.
half a season.
Oh,
Adrian
absolutely. With the
Peterson's
collarbone, he
one. Yeah,
dives
two
into the
different-
end zone against Iowa
I
State.
was at
First
that
game
game.
in front of his dad, and
Yep.
he dives for the sensational touchdown, breaks his freak accident, breaks his collarbone, and he's
Yep.
gone.
Hurt his shoulder against A&M
Yep.
the 1 year.
Yeah.
Played the rest of the season, but
Didn't
was
get the
injured.
start in the carries yet. He got a lot
Yeah.
of carries, but he didn't get the start.
Yeah, Keywan was getting all those.
At the
his
start of the
freshman year.
2003
He had over
4
1,900
season.
yards his freshman year
That's
and
incredible.
didn't start.
That's incredible. Could have broken Sanders' record.
Now, I will give AD some credit here, too. His freshman year, he obviously had a great offensive line. After that, he did not have a great offensive line or great quarterback play.
Right.
So, I do give him some props
Red
for that.
point.
Omar /
Good
Paul
point.
Thompson in
Oh,
05.
man, yeah.
And that line in 05 was bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bad.
That's another thing. I started to go down the rabbit hole, and it became too cumbersome. But I wanted to look at, because you had brought up Jay, who, and I think you mentioned that actually too, Lucas, who was the other running back against these guys, who stole carriers away from them. So I was looking back and thinking, God, back in the days, we were running the ball a lot more, obviously, in the wishbone. But, my God, you look back at how many guys, Elvis Peacock, the quarterback steals so many running. You know,
Yeah.
For
Fullbacks-
Joe Washington.
fullbacks getting carries.
Fullbacks getting carries. For Joe Washington, you've got Steve Davis and then Thomas Lott, who are stealing carries away in a sense. So it's really tough. That's why yards per carry is a really good stat.
That was part of my process for Mixon, too. Because he
He's-
had a
yeah.
stud in P. Ryan
Absolutely.
who actually took the
Who's on a
majority
lot
of
of our
the
lists.
carries.
They
Yeah.
complemented them each other so well.
That's
in
probably the
that
best duo
backfield
we
as
will
well.
ever have. At this.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, that was
such
incredible.
a good 1-2
And
punch.
we've had a lot of good
mean,
duos. And that's
DeMarco was there at the end of AD.
yeah.
Rodney and
But
Trey Sermon was pretty
together-
good.
But together in their
But-
prime.
Yeah.
Right, in their prime. That was
Um,
that OSU
and
game back in
Mixon missed
15
it.
was
Mi-
crazy.
Yeah,
Mixon
the
missed
other
the year,
great
he had to
running
sit
backs
out.
were nearly eye backs. Now, Washington had Peacock and quite a few others that were Joe Wiley, quite a few others that were great complements. And you need two backs in a wishbone set because you've got two halfbacks. But I can't imagine between anybody better than the pair of.
What would Mixon have done
Mixon
of
and
his
P.
freshman
Ryan.
year?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, we missed an entire year of that.
Yeah, that's true.
I wouldn't have lost as many games.
From his own stupidity and problems and another, hanging out with a
Misfortunes.
bad group and misfortune and however you want to describe
Where
that.
do we
As
think?
they say in soccer, he was unlucky.
Yeah.
Where do we think? We think Kennedy Brooks makes any of these lists after this season?
Gosh, he's working his way up the list.
Well,
He's really, really
he's number
efficient.
2 in yards per
In yards
carry.
per
Really,
carry,
really
yeah.
efficient in what he does.
Which is
He's really
crazy,
efficient.
'cause-
So here's the deal, and this is probably biased, but if we win a national title, and knock on wood, I definitely thwarted it. I completely made it not happen today because I scheduled vacation for the playoff. So we're definitely not going to go even to the first round. But if we win a national title, there's a little bit of undue influence in how that at least sets with us in our mind of the greatness of everybody on this team.
It will be such an underrated story because of
Yeah.
the quarterback situation.
Yeah,
Right.
yep.
But man, you look back. Kennedy Brooks is equally as big of a story in that Texas game as
Oh,
Caleb Williams
absolutely.
is, if not a bigger story.
Absolutely.
I mean that
Yeah,
that
200
game,
plus yards.
200
Yeah.
plus yards. I mean, and
In
yeah,
key yards, key
Was it like the
touchdowns.
fourth,
And I don't think it's
fourth
getting-
most rushing yards OU Texas?
I don't think
history?
it's
Right,
getting
yeah,
ignored by any
something
means,
stupid.
but man, it's. I mean, that performance alone, and just some of the stuff
But
that he's
all
put
we'll
together
remember is the
so-
plays. We won't
Yeah.
necessarily remember, oh my God, this
The
guy
production.
did all
Yeah.
this.
7 yards on this carry.
Yeah.
9 yards on this carry. We
Yeah.
remember.
I don't know. It's pretty easy to remember some of the stuff because he gets hit and he just goes. It's like
Yeah.
Ramondre. Ramondre did
Yeah.
the same thing. Except Ramondre would get hit 5 yards in
In
the
the backfield,
backfield
yeah.
and make 10 yards out of that. But
Speaks more to the offensive line concerns that we've had and going on for several years now.
no kidding.
So let's transition a little bit to where we are coming into the Kansas game. Who's got some score predictions?
Is that me?
No, you're fine. I'm checking the time. Who's got score predictions for us for the OU Kansas game?
Connor?
Yeah, I'll go. I'm gonna go 66-13.
I like it. Lucas?
I've got 56-10.
Kansas?
Oklahoma.
Oh,
Oh, all right.
picking the Sooners. All right,
go.
Interesting.
That's a cover.
That is a cover. I'll take it.
Yeah, I was thinking 62-17 maybe. I think we'll have a lot of backups playing.
All right.
So 3 field goals.
So I'm going to say, I'm
I like
right
that.
with you guys. I'm going to say, you two especially, 63-0. I think we pitch another shutout. The only way we don't is a backdoor cover against the third string on the defense or some weird
Kansas is
busted
really,
play.
really bad at football.
Because they're not
I mean,
good at football.
our starting
Our starting is
secondary
second string
is our
already.
second string already.
Right.
Yeah, so third stringers in the game is not going to
Our
be
third stringers will be to
unquestionable.
start the
I
second
know
half.
it'll happen.
In the
I'm just
secondary
saying
especially.
that's the only way they can score is something like that. Short of a scripted play at the scripted series at the beginning of the game, and we're just not showing up to play.
When does
Okay, so-
Spencer Rattler get in the game?
That's a good question.
He get the full second half?
Will he be on the team?
Even
I
a
will say.
bigger question.
Oh boy. Okay.
If he's
I think
suited
Caleb
up,
needs. I think he needs time.
I
give him
agree.
3 quarters.
You've got to
Give
give
Caleb
him
3
at least
quarters.
half of the third quarter. At least
Yeah.
there are 2 series in the third.
It'll be game dependent. If we're up 63-0 in the third quarter, he's going to sit down.
Yeah.
But if we're
I think it's
in
42-0
realistic
at half.
terms, this is a
and
realist.
Rattler comes in.
What is it?
I think it's 42-0 at half.
And he comes in.
Rattler comes in, plays the whole third quarter, and probably the first series of the fourth quarter, and then they put
And get you
Ralph
2
Rucker
touchdowns? So Spencer only gets you 2 touchdowns.
in. Yep.
And so then they set him for the third string.
Yes.
Wow, I don't see that happening.
After the first series of the fourth
So
quarter.
I'll say that I'll make a prediction that it's in the late third quarter that he comes in, he plays the rest of the game. I don't think Lincoln Riley's going to play the third string guy. It's just not going to happen. I think it's all politics.
Okay, here's a better question. Why is the spread 38?
Why is it not
Higher?
42?
Yeah, why is it not 48?
That's a lot of points. It's still a lot of points. I don't know. You think it's drugged down
I think it was-
by bad performances that
Yes.
were not indicative anymore of OU?
well, and a lack of our ability to cover the spread consistently.
What was
Yeah.
your prediction last? Didn't you say 28 or something like that previously?
No,
For what
mine,
the spread would be?
Yeah.
mine was
No.
really low.
I was
Mine was
thinking
like
low
24.
30s.
You said
Mine was
24. I said
I was-
28.
I was
You
thinking low
said
30s,
34.
but
and
I
you
honestly-
34 and a
said,
half or something.
and you said
I said
20.
low 30s.
Low 30s.
Yeah, yeah. 30,
I didn't have an
think you
exact
said.
number. I honestly
figure.
hadn't watched a lick of Kansas, and
Well, I
until-
study
and
it nightly.
I can tell. And until I even looked at their previous scores, that's why when I saw the 38, I was like, "This is." I really didn't understand it
They're
because
bad at football.
They're really bad.
Yeah, they're not good.
They're bad.
They are 126th.
Are they West Carolina bad?
That was the point. I'm starting to wonder is
They might
To
be.
Steve's-
What was the
Steve's-
final of that game?
76-0.
70.
76-0.
Wow.
Steve says 63-0. I'm approaching right 63-0.
Yeah, 63-0.
I'm thinking somewhere along. I mean,
You already gave your score.
no, I know, but when Steve said to you and I in the West Carolina game, it will be a shame if this team gives up a single point, or he said if the team
I mean, I
crosses
think
the
Texas
50-yard line.
Tech. I think
You
Texas
should-
Tech
if you-
was up 42-0, and Kansas scored twice in like the final 2 minutes. or
Texas
something.
right.
Tech is
And Texas Tech is
bad.
not good.
Bad.
Now, it all depends on who's playing and what's going on. If they run a razzle-dazzle trick play,
Something around the
They
edge
can score.
that we can't tackle.
but they're not going to take the ball 80 yards on us and move down the field in
I mean, all it takes is one fluke play like the first play of OU Texas.
Last time.
Well,
we went
that's
to-
what it would take.
The last time we went to Kansas, we were losing at one point.
That's right. That was crazy.
It's a
Kansas
rough
fans,
start to
let's
that
call them
game.
out. They were not
They
nice.
suck.
They were jerks.
You guys suck if you're listening.
They were very much jerks.
Prove me wrong, because you suck.
So we went to every game in 2019, which would mean we went to Baylor, Oklahoma State, Kansas, Kansas State, and what was the other one?
UCLA.
UCLA. And I would say the only bad fans we ran into, which is cherry picking, small sample size, but the Kansas fans in many situations at different places, walking to the game, walking from the game,
Walking to the restaurant.
in a different, walking to the restaurant and in the stadium, different people were rude to us, really rude, bad rude. Thought we were going to get into
Not
a fight
LSU
rude.
rude, though.
Outside of getting
Not
assaulted,
LSU rude, but only because LSU's good at football.
outside of getting assaulted in Stillwater, the Kansas
So,
fans
yeah.
were the worst fans.
Yeah, so Stillwater,
by far.
we had a bigger, because it was a full crowd,
Yeah.
and we brought a little on ourselves, to be honest, but they were exceptionally
Not cool.
They were a whole section of people.
That's a story for another time.
We basically almost had to fight a section.
Well, this
That'll
year-
be a great midweek pod going into
That will be
Bedlam.
really good.
This year we need to do a better job, and since you can sit anywhere in the stadium in Lawrence, we need to sit behind the OU bench. And
That's
not
great.
on the other
I
side
like
of the
it.
stadium.
I like
we
it.
Need to sit on
no,
the,
we need to move
on
over
the
there,
East side.
sit behind the bench, watch. We never get a chance to do that.
Right.
Let's do it.
We
Let's
could ask
sit close.
Rattler how he's feeling.
We need
And
to
I
sit
want
on
to
the
sit
east
low.
side because that's
Let's
where the
get him
OU
on the
fans
pod
sit.
during the game.
Oh, man.
He'd probably do it.
We could bring an NIL contract to the game.
He still probably has lofty aspirations about what that's worth. So, this week, Rattler, today actually, he supposedly looked at he took his Instagram. What did he do? He
took off the University of Oklahoma off of his label as. So originally it's University of Oklahoma quarterback.
Okay.
And now it just says quarterback. So,
But only on Instagram.
only on Instagram.
Twitter still says.
Granted, he hasn't been on Twitter since the Sunday after OU Texas.
Well, he hasn't posted or
hasn't
liked
posted.
or
I'm sure he's
or
been on it and has been
retweeted. Yeah.
logging stuff.
Yeah.
So take that what you will. People don't do things like that unintentionally,
I
in my
agree.
opinion.
I don't know. Absolutely
So,
not.
However you want to look at it, there's.
So-
I cannot imagine what that quarterback room is like right now.
My comment to a friend was that's either a flex or it's a signal to others that, hey, I'm available. I'm going to
Give me a
transfer.
call.
Give me a call.
Yeah.
Because the rumor mill is that Nebraska is actually after him and has had contact, which would be illegal contact, I believe.
not allowed.
That
Why would
they-
anybody want to go play for Scott Frost at that university right now?
Oh,
They're close.
Sign me
They're
up
close?
for that.
They're close. Since
Sign,
when?
sign
They've
me
been close
up
this
for
whole
that
season.
game in Lincoln.
They have been
next
close.
year,
Yes,
if that
I didn't even
happens.
think about
Oh.
that.
Put that in my veins.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God! Like
Yeah,
talk about.
I'll be
awesome
there.
would that
Will you
be?
be there?
We're gonna
I'll
be
be
at
there.
that
Oh,
game.
we're
you
going to
be
be
there?
there.
Yeah.
We're
Oh,
going to
we're
be
all
there,
gonna be
baby.
We don't miss games.
We don't miss games.
We don't miss
No,
games.
listen, that would be absolutely incredible to be going against Spencer Rattler next
my
year up
God.
in Lincoln, Nebraska.
How about the guy holding the sign so Chandler Morris couldn't interpret Lincoln Riley's hand signals against TCU?
Yeah, that
we
was-
didn't even talk about that.
Yeah, I noticed that
What
too.
would it be like at Nebraska if Spencer Rattler's on the sideline?
Oh, dude.
And yeah,
Oh my gosh.
I don't think it.
I don't even want to entertain that conspiracy theory because that is too good.
Honestly, I
too
think
good.
that what you would see in Lincoln is the absolute stomping that we should have seen in Norman.
Yeah.
That if Caleb had been the quarterback all along, we would have
That's like,
embarrassed
oh,
Nebraska.
this is what it should have been
We
last
will
year.
embarrass
I don't
Nebraska
think
next
Rattler
year.
would go to Nebraska just because he might have PTSD for
what
the word
Nebraska-
Lincoln.
He has to live in
That's a good
Lincoln.
point.
He doesn't want to live in Lincoln.
Lincoln's been his big ally. Lincoln's been his
Until he
crutch and
wasn't.
everything.
Yeah.
I don't think he could possibly be mad at Lincoln.
He still
If
takes
he's-
the chance to compliment the
there's
kid.
no
in
Do you
every
think he's
single-
mad at Lincoln?
I think so.
I don't think.
I don't
he's
think he
mad
has
at
a right
Lincoln.
to be after what we've seen.
I don't know if it's a
But
right
as
at
a
all.
21-year-old kid,
you don't-
I think he's going to have a grudge.
I don't
towards
think you
Lincoln.
can have a right to be mad at a
anyone,
person
ever.
for making a coaching decision.
I don't know. I can't get into the head of Rattler, and if I just
Well, don't go there.
look at behavior, it's tough to be too charitable about what we've seen, but I would doubt that he holds Lincoln in low regard. I bet he holds him in high regard. I bet he's got to see. Lincoln wasn't leading the chant, "We want Caleb." Lincoln
But he still made the decision
was
to
slow to make the switch. He was slow. Yeah, he probably has a little bit of bitterness, but I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know. and I think that this is a moment. This is a comment from a friend, Nate, and a listener, who said that this has got to weigh on his draft stock, and I think it's absolutely true. How he handles this moment, how he handles everything, is going to have big implications for his future. Anyone who's looking at it from a standpoint of we want an employee, and he's going to be with us potentially for a long time. We're going to invest a lot of money in him. We want to know a guy's head's in the right place. We want to know his heart's in the right place. We want to know he can endure and get through difficult situations. Persevere. Can he do it? He hasn't yet shown that he can, but this is early in this process. He hasn't.
It has the potential to be the biggest pre-draft bust that we've seen
since
in a long time.
Like, I mean, even who's the guy from Oregon who was the highly touted Joey? He was actually good. He went to the
Harrington?
NFL. Joey Harrington. You've got the guy from USC who teethed on frozen meat, Marinovich, whose dad tried to turn him into a quarterback. You know, he actually went to the NFL. But
I bet just who has been this highly touted?
I don't know. There's not many.
Ryan Leaf.
But who crashes before?
Ryan
Leaf didn't crash before.
I don't think anyone.
I got one for you, Mitch Mustaine.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone though has gone from preseason Heisman
favorite,
number one pick in the draft to being benched and replaced by a true freshman in Game 5.
Somewhat irrelevant.
True freshman.
Yeah. There's no way that's ever
hadn't
happened.
played football
Underscore
in 2
that.
years.
There's no way that's happened before.
That's just
We could go on
phenomenal.
about this for a long
It's
time.
phenomenal.
It's a crazy topic.
It's really interesting.
We
And
should talk about our poll though on Twitter as well.
So tell us about the poll. You posted a poll.
So we posted a poll.
Do we have the results?
We have some results.
I'll pull them up while you're talking about the poll.
Yeah, so I've been thinking all week. We've got a pretty good little set of undefeated teams going into what are we in? Week 8 this week?
Week 8. Mm-hmm. Kind of a low number though. Usually there's more undefeated.
So what is it? 12 right now? Something
Is it
like
that many?
And maybe less than that. Coastal Carolina just got beat tonight.
Yeah, I thought it was less than that, but
Yeah,
maybe
less.
wrong.
But anyways, we ran a poll saying or asking our listeners or followers to give us their opinion. Who is the most overrated top 10 undefeated team? I think
You didn't say undefeated, but you only listed undefeated teams.
Gotcha. Okay, I should have said undefeated. That's a good point.
And you didn't have OU on there.
Because of
There was only going to be one vote for that.
It wasn't. No, there wasn't. I actually got a text from a listener.
A listener. They wonder why you
saying
didn't have OU on there?
Saying, why is OU not on here? A homer posted this, guys. So
Oh.
it is 2 homers and a realist and
True.
Jay as
And
well.
Jay.
But a homer posted this. So the 4 teams we had is number 2 Cincinnati, number 6 Michigan, number 8 Oklahoma State, and number 9 Michigan State.
That's right.
My take, I participated in the vote through my personal account. I think
Oh, it's illegal. You're
I think-
completely fraudulent.
Skewed.
I think Oklahoma State is disgustingly overrated.
I would have to agree.
I voted Oklahoma State as well.
I'm about to vote Oklahoma State. Hold on, because
You can't.
I
The
didn't get a
poll's
chance
closed.
to.
The poll's
Oh, it did
closed.
close. Darn it.
What are the results?
I'm going to reopen it. All right. So if we look at these results, this is surprising. The top vote getter was Cincinnati at 32%. Now, maybe people. Now, that's interesting because there's some interpretation here. At number 2, I could see you saying they're more overrated at number 2 than Oklahoma State is at number 8.
Yep.
I get that. That's a point that people could make.
Cincinnati has curb stomped some people. I don't think they're better than us.
No, I don't either. I don't think they're the most
They're more
overrated,
deserving
though.
of number 2 than Oklahoma State is.
They
of number
didn't
8.
nearly lose several games, and Oklahoma
Right.
State did.
And Oklahoma did as well.
Not the same way as Oklahoma State.
No, I mean compared to Cincinnati.
Cincinnati didn't play our schedule.
Who would you vote out of those?
Oh,
two,
that
Lucas?
super tough Nebraska and super tough Tulane squads. Man, I keep forgetting about those guys.
Let's roll through the Cincinnati
have
schedule
almost-
in
I
a
keep
forgetting
second.
about
We've
those-
almost gotten virtual fist
those
fights
tough
about this
opponents.
already. I don't want to hear about it.
One
You're
in 6
insane.
Tulane.
So how bad is so?
Logic is
Are you
really
saying
flawed.
OU is the number 1 overrated team?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so you're just
I think we're overrated by.
throwing
2 or
feces
3
from the
spots.
trees here. Okay.
We could be 5 or 6 pretty easily.
So Michigan and Michigan State. Michigan was 23% of the vote. Oklahoma State was 23%. Michigan State 22%. So all 3 of those neck and neck. 22 votes total for those that are interested in the stat. I think it's interesting that Cincinnati's a top vote getter. I don't think I agree with that either. I think Oklahoma State of these four is the most overrated top 10 team. I think the most overrated top 10 team of all the top 10
They're
teams.
going to get beat this weekend. Names.
I think they're probably going to get beat
Yeah, I
this
think
weekend.
so too.
They're supposed to get beat this
They are
weekend.
supposed
They
to.
were supposed to get beat last weekend by Texas. If Texas wasn't so completely inept, they would have gotten beat.
Man.
Same as us.
Except
No.
we beat Texas.
No, if
Yeah, we
Texas wasn't
absolutely-
inept, they would have beat us.
No.
They would have finished us off.
Well, if we had Caleb Williams all the
That's the
time, we
same
wouldn't have
situation
gotten
with
beat.
OSU.
What did-
Texas
what
had
did-
them in the position to
what
finish
did-
them off, and they didn't.
What did Texas do in an inept way to prevent them from winning that game? Our defense shut them down the entire second half.
And our offense came alive.
And our offense lit them up. Because that defense
Which
that they
is
have
not
is
what you
bad.
would say about OSU.
I mean, they fumbled the ball on a kickoff on their own 15-yard line or whatever. That
I'll give you
inept.
that is an inept play because no one should ever return kicks ever.
Especially not in that position.
should always be fair.
That
catches.
was as
Absolutely.
dumb as can be. That would be a better rule than what we've seen with returning a kick in that situation. That was this, boy, that kid. He had a great game otherwise.
So
but that
according to
was a stupid move.
sportsbettingdime.com, strength of schedule, Cincinnati has played the 78th hardest schedule so far, and Oklahoma is surprisingly the 38th.
There you go.
What is Oklahoma State?
That's pretty significant.
They're actually up there pretty good, I think. 5th.
Wow.
Fifth?
That is
All right, never mind this.
Disregard this
sportsbetting.com.
Yeah,
Hold on. Think about this. Boise State,
Baylor
they're
and
okay.
Baylor and
Baylor, Texas. Fifth?
Yeah, I think Arkansas is number 1 on that list. I left the site already.
Oh, because Arkansas is super overrated as well.
Yeah, that's true. Well,
It's a great year for college football.
it is a good year
It
for
is a
college
great year for
football.
college football.
Anything else to cover here in the midweek pod? Before we wrap it up, we'll get this posted hopefully tonight.
Fun stuff.
Fingers crossed it does not rain.
Oh, knock on
Lawrence.
granite or travertine.
That could affect our scores.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely could. It absolutely could. Although, it may mean that we rush for like 500 yards.
Andy Brooks may
Yeah.
actually break that record.
Yeah, he might.
Remember the
in
day that
rain.
Samaje broke it?
I
In
think
the
Knowles
rain.
and Hudson get into the game and
I think
get
you're
some
right,
rushing
too.
yards.
Oh
It's
man,
gonna
we
be-
should buy a Weatherman Jaden Knowles shirt for that. Those shirts are sweet.
I have not seen it.
Jaden
I'll
Knowles
check it
has
out.
some cool NIL.
That-
Nice.
And that's the
Like
reason
by
he picked
far one of
Oklahoma
the best
was for the
designs.
weather school.
Yeah, I mean it's
Really?
great.
You have to send
He's
that
a
to us.
meteorology major.
Get a free plug for the Knowles gear.
Yeah, we should include him as well.
Well, guys, let's wrap it up. And the next pod will be post-Kansas. We'll be doing it, I guess, on Sunday probably after the drive home. We'll relax and soak it all in.
Or Saturday night, who knows?
We'll see. Yeah,
Never
it could
can
be.
tell.
It could be. Never can tell. All right.
Boomer
Until
Sooner.
then, Boomer Sooner.
Boomer
Sooner.
Sooner.